We're going to talk about the structure of the project for a moment before we get started. So the size of this is 6 inches high and 30 inches long. The foundation chain is 70 chains for your foundation and 2 chains for your turning, and then there's 9 rows of half double crochet in the back loop. And then on the end we have 2 buttons here on the end. And then when you lay the project out and put it around your neck, your buttons are here and you just button it up. These are the items that you're going to need to have in order to make this project. I've got 2 skeins of this Lions Brown Hometown USA yarn. The color on this yarn is Wichita Tweed. It's a super bulky 6-weighted yarn. It calls for a size N 9mm hook for crochet, and each skein is 64 yards. I have 2 skeins of those, and that's 128 yards. I have my crochet hook, a size N 10mm. I have some scissors, 2 buttons, yarn needle in order to sew in those tails. I have a couple of row markers. I have some thread, some black thread that I'm going to use to sew on these buttons, and I have some needles here that I'm going to use to sew these buttons on when we get to the end. The first thing we need to do is to make a slip knot. So we take our yarn, wrap it around our fingers, cross it over here where there's an X, take this loop, push it through behind my fingers and pull it up. Now we're just going to pull that yarn tight, put it on our hook, and we're going to just pull it up. Don't want to make it super tight. This is some bulky thick yarn, so we don't want our stitches to be super tight because it's already going to be a pretty dense project, and the tighter you make those stitches, we just want to have some nice drape to it where it moves really easily and it hangs really nicely when you're wearing it. So to make this project, the foundation chain needs to be 30 inches long. With this bulky weight, this size N hook, it's going to be 70 chains, and we're going to add 2 on the end, so a total of 72 for our foundation. If you're using a different size of yarn or hook, you need to get your measuring tape out, do your chains and measure it, and make sure it's 30 inches long. So I'm going to do a small swatch to show you the techniques to make this project. So go ahead and start making your chain, your yarn over, and you pull the hook through the loop of yarn that's on your hook, and that's a chain. So you're going to do 70 plus 2, a total of 72. Once you get there at the end of your foundation, come back and I'll show you how to turn your work. We'll see you in just a moment. Okay, now that you're in of your foundation, see how pretty your chain looks? This is the front of your chain. And you see how there's nice pretty V's? Okay, we're going to not crochet into this chain here. We're going to actually flip it over, and we're going to crochet into the back of the chain. If you turn it over, you'll see that there's bumps. You see? Let me point it out to you. You see there's one piece of yarn here that looks like a bump or a ridge. We're going to put our hook and we're going to crochet into that bump right here. We're not going to crochet into the front part, and what that will do is to give your bottom of your project a really nice pretty finish. We're not going to put a border on our project, and it's going to match and look like that final row that you complete when you get to the end. So we're going to crochet into these bumps. So what you're going to do is we're going to do half double crochet, and that stitch is what we're going to use throughout the entire project. So we're going to yarn over, and then we're going to take our hook and go into the 3rd bump from the hook. So 1, 2, 3, and you're going to put that hook right into that bump. If you can't get that hook into that bump easily, sometimes I'll use my thumb to help pull that thread over that into that hook, yarn over and pull it through. You should have 3 loops of yarn on your hook. You're going to yarn over and pull it through all 3 loops of yarn. Now I'm going to mark that stitch. This is the final stitch on that row when you come back the other way. I always like to mark my stitches when I do my my projects, my scarves, washcloths and things, so that it can really keep a nice straight edge as I crochet up. Now we're going to yarn over and we're going to go right into that bump. Here's another trick for you as you try to crochet into that bump. You see the hook here on your crochet hook? If you take that hook and you slide it right under that piece of yarn where that bump is, and then you turn your hook sideways, it pushes through really easily and nicely. So now you're going to yarn over and pull it through, and then do your half double crochet. So go ahead and do your half double crochets all the way to the end of your foundation, and when you get to the end, stop and come back and I'll show you how to make your turn. Now that you're down to the very end of your foundation, it's time to make your turn. So you're going to chain 2, so 1, 2. So every time you turn, you're going to chain 2, then you're going to turn your work. You're going to turn it just like the page of a book. You're going to flip it over from right to left, and then you're going to go back the other way. Now we're going to do half double crochets all throughout the rest of your project. But for every row now after this, you're going to crochet into the back loop of the stitch beneath. So you see the top of your project right here? It looks like those V's like you saw earlier when we looked at the foundation chain. You see the V's? So where you're going to crochet now for the rest of your project, let me lay the hook to the side. Let me pull it out a little bit so it doesn't come loose. All right, see the V's here? You're going to crochet into this back loop all the way down, and it's going to give a really pretty texture to your project as you're working it. So once we yarn over, we're going to push our hook right through here. We'll take our yarn over and pull it back through, and then we'll half double crochet all the way down. We're not going to go through both loops. We're just going to go through this back loop back here. This is your front loop. This is your back loop. All right, let me get my yarn situated. So we're going to yarn over, take our hook, and go right into that back loop. And we're going to yarn over and pull it through. And yarn over and pull it through all 3 loops on our hook. And we'll do that all the way down. And then come back in just a second and I'll talk you through making that turn one more time just in case you need it. And then I'll show you how to fasten off in just a moment. So we're now down to the end of the row, and you see where my crochet marker is right here? That's our last stitch. We're going to go right into that back loop just like we were doing on all the rest of the stitches on the row. Yarn over and pull it through, yarn over and pull it through all 3 loops on our hook. I can take that stitch marker. So here we're going to chain 2, turn our work, and then we're going to go right into the back loops all the way until we're done. Now I've come to the spot in my project where I have run out of yarn on this one skein, so I'm now going to have to attach my project to the second skein of yarn. So let me show you how to do that. Oh, and by the way, look at your project. You see the nice texture crocheting into the back loop of the yarn gave you. It gives you this really pretty raised rows on your project front and back. Isn't it really nice? Okay, so anyway. All right, so now I'm into my skein. Here's my new skein of yarn. And what I'm going to do, where it's a seamless add, is I'm going to take this loop of yarn right here. I'm going to lay the other one on top of it, right there. And this loop of yarn, I'm going to take it and I'm just going to tie it one time. So I'm going to take it over and pull it through, and I'm just going to pull it down one time. Pull it down tight. Okay. Now this other piece of yarn that's hooked to this skein here, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to lay it over. I'm just going to take it and I'm going to tie it one time and pull it tight. Now that they're tied in 2 spots on here, I'm going to grab one piece of yarn that's attached to my project, one piece of yarn attached to the skein, and I'm just going to see how it's on there. I'm just going to take it and I'm going to pull it, and those little knots are just going to slide right up next to each other. See? And then take my scissors and I'm just going to cut that hanging off tail there, and cut off this little piece of tail close as you can, and throw those away. And it's attached and it's really tight. Now I can just keep on crocheting without having to sew in a yarn tail. I love not having to sew in yarn tails. So now keep on going to the end of your project, and then I'll show you how to fasten off. Got my last stitch here, and there we go. So there's 9 rows. So I'm going to get my scissors, and I'm going to cut a pretty good sized yarn tail, about 6-7 inches long. Now I'm going to fasten off my work. So I'm going to yarn over and pull my yarn up, and then I'm going to yarn over again and pull it all the way through. Now I'm going to take this yarn, lay down my hook to the side, and take this yarn tail, and I'm going to pull it really tight. And what it's going to do, it formed a knot right here at the end of my project. Now I'm going to get my yarn needle that I have, and I have a large one because I have this bulky yarn, and I'm going to sew in my yarn tail into my work. And as I sew it in, what I'm going to do is just find how this yarn flows in the project, and I'm going to follow that. So I'm going to take this yarn needle and stick it through here. And I like to, when I sew in my yarn tails, I like to sew about, see, that hid that knot there. I like to sew in about 4, 5, 6 inches into my project, and no one will see that yarn tail. And you just pull it through like that. Okay, and then I'm going to just clip that piece of yarn there, and then pull it up, and you're not going to be able to see it. Now I'm going to do the other end. All right, we're done. So now how it's going to work, you've got this long scarf. Now we're going to lay it down, and we're going to bend over one side, and we're going to turn this other side over on top of it. Okay, this is where it's going to go up here, your neck, and then this is going to be around your neck, and then the buttons are actually going to go here. So when you're finished, that's the way it's going to look. So we need to actually put our buttons underneath on this bottom layer, the place that we want them, and this is where our buttons are going to go. So when we button it, it'll come through right here. All right, so that's where our buttons need to be placed. Got me a needle here, and I've got me some thread. After looking at it a little bit further, instead of this black, I'm going to use this brown thread. So change of plans. Sometimes we just have to pivot. I think this brown would be better suited than the black. So got the button sewed on now, and now let's see here what it looks like. Put the button right in there, and then this button right in here. And there's our finished project. So it can either be a little bit more over to this side. You can wear it like that, or you can wear it more towards the center. I think that looks super cute. Thanks for watching the Crafty Yarn Barn and tuning in. Be on the lookout for more videos coming your way. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Y'all have a great day. God bless. Bye. Man, that's cute. Good job.